Whereas here, hopefully the whole building is the thing. That it becomes a study in how to make a building fully sustainable. That a lot of architects I'm talking to say that they'd be encouraged to pull it down and start again. But all that material, concrete, brick, wood has to go somewhere, and then a whole load of new stuff has to come. So I think there'll be a lot of support into finding out how to run a building like this. Sustainably, and we'll try and do that for the heating, the water, the toilets. But everything that goes in and out is part of the experiment.
So it's all going to be sort of flavors from the region, and then we brought a little along just to make sure that we had, you know, the basics. So very improvised, which is also fun from a food perspective.
Yeah, it's of course it's incredible, exciting project if it's going to be a reality. It's very important for the region if this becomes a project, and in my own job it's of course also something that I'm struggling every day to make things happening, and suddenly it comes, this pops up from nothing, and it would be place Elmert on the spot. Dear. So yeah, you know, it's huge building, a lot of stuff, a lot of opportunities. Yeah, of course.
Ada, do you want to go next?
Interesting is trying to connect sustainability with business models, because I think sustainability has been struggling with being this very isolated, annoying satellite for many companies and for many businesses, and if we can really try to implement in business models and make them the main drivers, it's really interesting. And why I think this place is so super interesting is that the big task here is to create an interconnected ecosystem where anything benefit each other, and that's a huge task and very interesting, ambitious thing. Yeah.
So I would say all the projects today I'm involved with is to help more wisely use the resources we have in the world and save some of the nature for the future. Today that's a variety of projects which will take a long time to talk about, but it's from UN Live, which is great people, and I'm really an entrepreneur, so I try to go in and do what I can do to help getting a project up running and organized and all. And when it's finally, you know, when it's really running and there's people involved, and then I kind of see if I can do things in another project. And that's basically why I'm here, to figure out how can I add value to this project.
Yeah.
From my view, each people and how it would all fit together now. So the place itself I saw, and I think there's a great potential here, super potential. Of course, some challenges, a lot of them, but it's all about if it's possible to bring together the right people.
I'm Professor Rebecca Early. I've known David for a year, about. I just opened my third research centre. In 22 years I've been at Chelsea College of Arts in London, University of the Arts, London. I'm professor in sustainable fashion textile design. So I primarily work on generating new materials from waste. I'm Professor Rebecca Early. I've known David for a year about. I just opened my third research centre. In 22 years I've been at Chelsea College of Arts in London, University of the Arts, London. I'm professor in sustainable fashion textile design. So I primarily work on generating new materials from waste. For example, a big project at the moment which I think fits this place really well is Trash to Cash, which is an EU Horizon 2020 funded project which is taking waste materials and getting designers to work with scientists, engineers, industry designers to basically imagine the future scenarios for waste and then go through the whole process, technical process of creating new fibres and materials for really high-end applications. And we're finishing that project this year in Dutch Design Week in October, and we've used waste paper pulp, old fleeces, cardboard waste, and some of the designers involved and scientists can take brown cardboard waste and then produce something that looks like a beige cashmere. And it's incredible, you know. And it's all about, it's not so much about materials, and it's about the collaboration of the people coming together to make that happen. And that's what really inspires me with this place, is the potential, the vision to bring artists together with designers, with waste streams, and think about what people really, really need, and make things that are sort of scalable or replicable. So what I've got from this tour is absolutely about, like, it wouldn't take us very long to take this stuff and make some good stuff. That's sort of phase one, isn't it, really? It's like what that means as a model for lots of other places to take on and do. It's like we were talking about the fact that all over Sweden there are lots of places where the industry has shifted and there are these big buildings full of stuff. You know, what if this was the beginning of a scalable model for lots of action around the globe? And the other thing that's really happened is I really love the idea of pigs and goats outside. And just all the small local circular economies that we can collaboratively create here that represent what can happen globally. Full of stuff. You know, what if this was the beginning of a scalable model for lots of action around the globe? And the other thing that's really happened is I really love the idea of pigs and goats outside. And just all the small local circular economies that we can collaboratively create here that represent what can happen globally.
This feels like another spot that is kind of, there's, as we talked about, a kind of slowly weaving a web of venues around the world that is off-center, and creating something different. I suppose I'm here because of I'm representing one of those venues that came out of nothing and now is kind of significant in a way.
Yeah. I do very little free work at the moment just because I'm really busy, but I got this email from Becky and two things happened all at once. One, I decided I really wanted to work with Becky and I hadn't. And two, I just smelt something about this project. And I think you need three things. I think you need people, place and purpose. And I picked up the purpose from that. And then what I've seen today, loads of stuff, absolutely shitloads of stuff, but the people and the place is what's resonated with me. And that river There's something magical about that river, and to think of this in a bioregional way, where you've got a factory here that was powered naturally, you've got natural materials from the area that was shipped here without power. This was the factory of the future in the past, and I'm really interested in how we reimagine that actually. So those three things: people, place, purpose, and they're all here.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you very much.
So someone pass some bread down, fuckers.
I think here the curiosity from a designer is fantastic, because I want to walk around and I'm picking things up and I'm drawing stuff, and I think, oh, that could be a really interesting product, or that could be the beginning of this. And from a system design perspective, I can see a massive ecosystem and the beginnings of something. And I think I worked on the Earth Centre in 1998, where we took an old coal mine in Doncaster and made it into a sustainable centre and completely regenerated the whole place. So the fact you can do it, and you can get the ex-coal miners to come and work in the allotments, and the visitors to come and shit in the toilets, and that then powers all the different buildings and things like that, is a brilliant. I mean, it has been done, and it is very achievable if you have the site. So that's what. So it's the curiosity on both the micro and the macro level that brings me here.
Interested in doing. And when I've been fortunate enough to be involved in projects that are about doing, and when there have been projects that have been about culture, which is one of the things that excites me most, and when I say culture, what I mean by that is when I've been involved in projects which have helped to bring culture to people, the thing that makes human beings interested and excited to be in the world and remind them what it means to be human. When I've been involved in projects like that, I feel very fortunate that I've been involved in projects that have brought public art into the world. In particular, I've been involved in projects in London to help Crossrail, a mega project across London to create public art in each of the 8 stations in the main artery of London. And that's how I was introduced to this project. That group suggested, David, they said to me, David, you need to meet David. So David got in contact with me, and I said, okay, well, this sounds interesting, because David's doing something which looks to me to be trying to solve one of the big problems that we face right now in the world. And one of the big...
How to keep people from David busy.
How to keep... And this is a huge project.
There's a lot of Davids out there.
In the UK, they've invented a television channel for it. Because it's important to keep Davids busy. But keep them out of trouble, perhaps. Because if they get into too much, they make things happen. And I looked at this and I thought, this might make a thing happen. So for me, what's fascinating and interesting about this is you're trying to solve a very big problem. You're trying to solve a problem which is how do we make a new way of doing things when we've got no example of how things have been done before? How do we start afresh? We know all of the problems that exist in the world in the sense that we know that in the past 50 years, not only has the population doubled, but our use of resources has quadrupled. We know that as humanity, as a species, we've got some really big challenges here. How do we solve a problem? We've got no tools. We've got nothing in the toolkit that says, here, how we're going to do that. Where do we go to try and solve problems when we don't have anything in the toolkit? We go to art, culture, and the imagination space. We go to a room which looks a little bit different from how things are normally done. And so when I looked at this brief that you sent through, or this outline of what this place is going to become, I thought, oh, they're going to try and solve this problem. and they're going to try and solve this problem using what I'm going to call collective intelligence. And I'm going to define collective intelligence now as well. So collective and intelligence are two beautiful words, but to put them together actually means something new, I think. New, and it's right now. And I think it means, how do we get over the old binaries? How do we get over the old binaries of left versus right, of Brexit versus non-Brexit, of Trump versus the Hillary or whatever it is? How do we come to find a way in which we define a new narrative which pulls upon all the best ideas that are available? That's what I like in the core of that document. That document says we're going to pull food together with art, together with space, together with ideas. And you're like, hang on, how's that going to solve anything? Well, maybe that might be the answer. That's what collective intelligence, it seems to me, that's what this represents. So, that's a very bold and ridiculously optimistic and perhaps too bold in some ways. I'm not saying this place is going to solve the world, but it's got a Rubik's Cube idea at the heart of it which might try and solve the problem. And for me, I like ideas like that, so I come along to them. And I'm looking forward to meeting everyone here. Because even if it's not solved here, I'm sure everyone's come with the same kind of oomph. Well, how do we do that? That's how I was introduced to this project. That group suggested, David, they said to me, David, you need to meet David. So David got in contact with me and I said, okay, well this sounds interesting because David's doing something which looks to me to be trying to solve one of the big problems that we face right now in the world. Where do we go to try and solve problems when we don't have anything in the toolkit? We go to art, culture, and the imagination space. We go to a room which looks a little bit different from how things are normally done. And so when I looked at this brief that you sent through, or this outline of what this place is going to become, I thought, oh, they're going to try and solve this problem. And they're going to try and solve this problem using what I'm going to call collective intelligence. Pulls upon all the best ideas that are available. That's what I like in the core of that document. That document says we're going to pull food together with art, together with space, together with ideas. And you're like, hang on, how's that going to solve anything? Well, maybe that might be the answer. That's what collective intelligence, it seems to me, that's what this represents. So, that's a very bold and ridiculously optimistic and perhaps too bold in some ways. I'm not saying this place is going to solve the world, but it's got a Rubik's Cube idea at the heart of it which might try and solve the problem. And for me, I like ideas like that, so I come along to them. And I'm looking forward to meeting everyone here.
I'd like to see how all the brilliant ideas that are about to be born within these walls help put scale to them eventually. And I think by my network and my perspective on helping bigger corporations also, come along in the fun and cool changes that is happening, I think we can, have a bigger impact eventually. One of the sort of key guides for us is we say we work with commercial coolness, and it sounds so silly. I'm embarrassed to say it, but it's an important it's kind of layer to things. If you want to make a change, you need to add the coolness to attract people, and I think I'm very good at seeing what consumers find attractive today. So adding a commercial coolness, a conceptual layer to what's going on here is something I also hope to contribute to. That's it. Yeah.
Beautiful building, such an amazing setting. So hopefully between us all we can make it happen this weekend.
The Swedish understanding of Småland is the cliche image understanding of Sweden when you're outside of Sweden. It's red houses with little trees around them. It's this kind of place that you just saw outside. It's IKEA, it comes from here. The glass industry is from here. The furniture industry is from here. Astrid Lindgren is from here. Like all of this stuff, these trolls in the forest, everything. And that is an image that's kind of a bit dated in terms of what actually takes place here. So it was really about trying to see what are the sort of core concepts in that understanding that still apply today, that are still applicable, and that can be kind of reconfigured and translated and perhaps slightly skewed.
Hello.
Hello.
Don't worry too much about